E3 2016 coverage of probably the best by far show
Hands
so
down.
far of Sony.
Oh yeah.
What I liked about that was that it was everything I want those conferences to be. Sony came out there and it was 85 to 90% actual gameplay, trailers, fun stuff, just showing people the game and not telling them about it. All of the other conferences, it was a guy in a suit coming out being like, here at this game company, we're proud to say we've sold a lot of games thanks to you. And doing these like stupid jokes. It's like, this isn't an investors meeting. We don't care how much money you make.
Right.
We just want to see cool stuff. And we don't care if we're not going to play for like 10 years. We just want to see something cool. And Sony delivered that over and over again. There was a moment where 5 different games went by, big games, and not one person came out and chit-chatted. And what was the name of that guy who was doing the main talking?
Sean Layden.
He was great.
Yeah, he is great.
I would give him a lot of money and just say, invest this for me. And I would totally trust him. So
Yeah.
the show starts off. That was at the Shrine Auditorium. I think that's where they did the Final Fantasy 15 reveal event, actually.
Yeah, you're right.
It was beautiful. And an orchestra just starts playing with no explanation, just an orchestra. And it's this like regal, kind of dark epic. I'm like, wow, Sony is buying into their own hype here. They're just like, and then a choir starts singing. And in my mind, I'm thinking in Latin, they're singing like 40 million, 40. And then no one comes up to talk. Everyone claps like, oh, that was cool. And then they just show you a game. And they don't tell you who's going to appear from the shadows, but it's Kratos.
Yes.
And like they trust gamers to put it together. And they know that when we play games, we don't want to be like talked to. You don't want to describe how cool a game is. Just like bring him out there. So like, what were you feeling when Kratos came out, Matt?
I mean, the hype was absolutely electric because you could hear, and of course they had it mic'd and very expertly mixed in. I mean, you could hear the crowd just go completely nuts, even though everybody was expecting that. I mean, out of everything that we hoped we would see and thought we would see, that was hands down. Everybody knew that God of War was going to show up. Although I don't think anybody at all expected it to show up in the way that it did.
Exactly.
I'm so glad it doesn't have a number at the end. I'm so glad they're rebooting this series. It's this new kind of Valhalla, more they're taking this different kind of mythical approach to it, and it was
more human.
Yeah, it's a new Kratos. I'm super glad. I mean, I love God of War for what it is, and I played and finished and adored God of War 3. I appreciate the genius behind it, but I'm also I've mentioned to you, like I'm not super into hyper violence. That doesn't really get me going. I understand why it's super fun, but it's to me, it's not something that draws me to a game and keeps me playing a game. I played God of War 3 because the set pieces, very much like Uncharted, they were just unbelievable. You had those moments where you couldn't believe you were playing, but this was something so different where we encountered a Kratos who was almost nurturing. I mean,
he was
very
trying.
gritty. Yeah. I mean, he was definitely like struggling to.
There was that moment where he thought about putting his hand on his kid and then he didn't.
Exactly.
And the whole vibe about like, what is your mom teaching him? Are they divorced? Is this weekend with dad and this is what he makes me do?
Yeah, that's like a whole nother story that we have to unpack, and who is the mother and where is she now, and is Kratos still indeed this this god figure, and how did he end up in this hut with this son that he's now nurturing and bringing up? And I wonder how much his son will actually play in the story. Are we going to be, because it would be whenever his son learns something or progressed in some way, that's when the stat would come up at the bottom.
Oh, good eye.
Archery or tracking or whatever, plus 25.
You just gained plus 20 journalism points on that one, Matt.
Yes. So that was, well, I kept wondering. I was wondering if the perspective was going to shift at some point to the son. And that could be really interesting in the game if it went back and forth between the two, and you had this narrative between father and son, something more touching. And I got to tell you, at the end, I felt like the hugest wuss, because when he shot that deer or whatever the
big
antelope,
staggy thingy, horned beast.
Yeah. When he was sitting there struggling to finish the job and kill it, and he decided that he couldn't do it. It was such a human moment because they had that stag front and center, breathing heavily, very labored breaths, just on the verge of death. And he was sitting there, this young child, with the knife and being, ordered. He was on the threshold of manhood. It was such a touching and intimate moment, something that, I felt I almost needed to look away from. And having Kratos take that knife in his hands and his own and finish the job, that was so I mean, I got a lump in my throat. It was really, really powerful. And having that live orchestration behind it all, it
Oh
was
my
just,
God. I
yeah,
was so impressed. It's one thing to play live, and it's one thing to play live over a cutscene, but
hmm
they were doing like live cues with it, where you
yeah.
would approach an animal and then they like rose the strings up, waited for him to take the shot, and then zapped it out. That was so impressive. Bear McCreary composing the score and conducting most of it from Battlestar Galactica, of course.
It really makes you appreciate because I know the team behind Journey and an orchestra, they were traveling around doing this live orchestral tour where they would play through. They had a couple game players who played through Journey from start to finish, and they had this live orchestral score kind of go along with the game. And I kept wondering, how interesting could that be, and how hard would that be? Just seems like that'd be such a tedious and difficult task to work out the gameplay and the music live together and make sure everything stays in sync. And they did that from pretty much the beginning to the end of this entire conference presentation. And
Yeah, it added a lot.
kudos, yeah, kudos to that whole team and those musicians. That added so much. But yeah, I mean, what were you thinking going through the God of War demo? Obviously, we still had those huge action-packed sequences. You had that boss fight, which was really incredible. It looked amazing. What were you thinking?
I've never really played a God of War game before,
Mm,
and I'm glad that you pointed out that it was a reboot and that they're
yeah,
going a different direction because it felt very different to me. I was like, oh, I don't think of him as this guy who lives in a blip place and hunts his own food. I think of him as just this superhero who only wants to destroy a lot of people, and you don't think of like what Crash Bandicoot eats. He just jumps around, right?
right.
So, and also there was a moment where the kid said, "I am so sorry." I thought that's a really strange modern way to say that was put in this game.
Yeah,
Uh, it looked really interesting. I'm glad that they're taking the technology and the ability to tell these stories more narratively and more lifelike and doing something a little bit different with it while still retaining the classic, what looks like to me, the classic God of War combos and huge over the top melee attacks and big boss
hmm
battles. So it looks really good. And I just love that they jumped right in again with gameplay.
yeah,
And they ended the conference with that too. Like that is what it's about. It's not about a bunch of people dancing on stage and forced jokes and a stoned Jamie Foxx.
right.
It's just about games and people getting excited because Kratos is back. To be honest, I didn't even really recognize Kratos because he looked so different. I'm like, that kind of looks like the God of War guy, but not having the
Yeah,
background. But they didn't bother telling me. It's not like they had some guy in a suit being like, "We're proud to pronounce
yeah.
Kratos is back." I don't want to see that crap. I would just want to actually see someone play it. And the way they introduced the game player, like on the split screen, they had
Yeah.
him playing a couple multiple views. Didn't even put anything. He didn't talk, which was really nice. He didn't have like PewDiePie do it. Just a
Right.
guy, just to let you know I'm playing a game. And he was orchestrating it too, and like the big combos would come in. I thought it was fantastic. Anything else about new God of War?
Uh, no, only that if you've never played through them, God of War 3 is worth going through.
Sweet. I just grabbed that at a garage sale for $5.
Are you
It
serious?
came in a
And
Ziploc bag.
hey, as long as it's not scratched to hell, you still have your PS3 and
Yeah.
it's workable, dude. Yeah, you got to get through that. That'll set you up real nice because it's the apex of the franchise so far. It's almost
Okay.
a perfect action game, and it's even on PS3, it's something that fits right in the current generation of games visually. Even it's absolutely stunning and timeless, and the set pieces that you work through in that game are they're unforgettable. Somebody who appreciates Uncharted for their ability to seamlessly blend in these incredible cinematic set pieces and then kind of just shove you into the gameplay with no warning and then just let you take control of what's happening. That is the God of War 3 narrative from beginning to end, and it's worth experiencing.
Yeah. Hey, we had an internet glitch, but now we're back to talk about this incredible conference. Right after the God of War awesome gameplay that we saw with this live orchestra, they go right on. Nobody comes out and talks, and they just say Sony Pen Studios. This is what everybody's been waiting for years now. We've been wondering, what the hell are these guys up to? And we see this dystopian, maybe zombies, but you're not quite sure. No power technology, planes falling from the sky. The power generator's not working. Very like Last of Us, The Road, zombie movie-esque. Guys on motorbikes He's a bounty hunter and he's a sad man and he's dreaming of his lady who used to ride with him on the back of the motorbike. And that was kind of the glimpse we got there. They showed us a lot later on, right at the end of the whole conference, with a bunch of gameplay from that. So, what did you think of
Yep.
Days Gone, Matt?
It's really interesting. I'm glad to see a new IP, and I'm glad to see a protagonist who isn't this, unbelievably larger than life
Yeah,
hero. It's he felt very I don't know, down to earth. He was like a mix between Will Smith's character and I Am Legend, and then like one of the dudes from Sons of Anarchy or something.
that's
Just
what I
kind of
was feeling like. They were almost hinting at not like trailer trash, but when he was riding
yeah.
with his lady, I'm like, all right, those are just some regular people that'll pull up to a Walmart.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even down to the little details like his wardrobe, just, a backwards cap, some random tattoos and, jeans and just it looks like a normal dude who got caught up in something much bigger than himself. And that's nice because it makes it somewhat relatable. So obviously we don't know what happened, but they did give us those nice touches of, that flashback, that memory of him riding his motorcycle with his girlfriend or wife or whoever she was. And obviously he was the gameplay demo, he was looking for maybe a brother or a friend. He said the word brother. I'm not sure. Um, so right now I'm a little mixed. I think it's really exciting that it's a new story. Very mysterious protagonist, looks very relatable and cool. Visually, it was kind of humdrum, like
Sure.
same. Yeah, I mean it's a lot of stuff we see all the time, but um, and I actually at the very end, I didn't think that was I didn't think that was the way to go out on the conference. They ended on that gameplay demo that for me was a little underwhelming. I ended up turning the volume down. It was a little too much just unloading magazines out of an assault rifle at zombies, which if you really want to set your IP apart and it's this new thing and it's this new concept and you want to
Hmm.
really play that up, don't show the part of the game that's like every other game that we're playing right now. Don't show just blowing up barrels and killing a bunch of zombies. That's how many times have we done that in video games since we were little kids? So
For sure.
yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes, and I'm interested to hear a little bit more about it. Obviously, they didn't even. I don't think they even hinted at a release date. I don't think that I didn't even see 2017 or anything like
No,
that.
it seems like if it wasn't coming out next year, they didn't even bother.
Yeah, so we'll expect to see that maybe summer or holiday next year or something. But it's something I'll keep my eye on. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that it was something new. I was excited to see what they were doing. I was a little disappointed that it was zombies.
Yeah, or
Uh,
infected or whatever they are.
yeah, it kind of feels like The Last of Us mixed with something I don't know slightly different. We're gonna see some sort of open world that it kind of boils down to the same old shooting gameplay, like most games are. I mean, shooting is an easy thing to do in a game.
Yeah,
I mean, just look at Pong or whatever. It's like moving a vector along. I don't know these terms. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
So I thought it was exciting to finally see it and to see some gameplay of it. And it could be cool. I mean, it really depends what they do with the story. If they can provide a narrative punch, then we'll be in business. But
yeah.
I'm not quite sure they can. Maybe they can. They went straight on from that. Actually, I'm not sure. Maybe the man came out. But anyways, we saw Last Guardian.
Yeah.
And the orchestra sounded so good with that.
Hmm.
We saw lots of new footage I haven't seen before. And then we got a nice date, October 2016, and people cheered big time for that. So we'll be playing that very, very soon. The game that many thought would be canceled, the game that was supposed to be on the PS3,
Yeah.
is finally coming to the PS4. Looks good. Any interest, man?
Yeah. I'm definitely I'm invested. I'm interested. It was I was like fresh off the God of War hype. I think my adrenaline was still pumped a little bit and my emotions were still running high. So you had that the orchestral score was kind of swelling and getting really dramatic, and then you had that one very brief clip of that beast, whatever it is, kind of laying on its side with its own very labored breathing. Obviously, it looked like it was on the brink of death or something. So I was like, I'd almost swallowed that lump in my throat, and then it shot right back up again. So I think they're gonna do. I think they're really gonna play up that relationship that
Oh,
is.
yeah, big time.
Yeah, and I think they mentioned that it doesn't start off, real buddy buddy. I think the beast and the boy are not hostile toward one another, but I think they are just
From,
they both inhabit this world and they are almost like forced to work together. Really, it's kind of a partnership more than a friendship or a relationship. But obviously, I think they're going to let that unfold in a way that's really powerful and probably play on our emotions there. So I'm really preparing myself to be put through the ringer with that one. But
Oh
it's
man.
something that I think will be a really important experience this generation, and one we've been waiting for a really long time. So seeing October 25th was really reassuring, and now we can officially finally get hyped for that.
Yeah, I mean this team doesn't miss, and it looks like they're combining what they've learned with Team Eco and the partnership and the working together, the cooperative gameplay with these giant beasts that are given a humanized tone of Shadow of the Colossus, and what the very, very sad tone they had with Shadow of the Colossus, making you feel terrible for murdering giant beasts instead of triumphantly killing enemies, makes me think that dog's gonna die. That
Yeah.
dog, jackal, cat, bird.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a sad ending, and he's not making it out of there alive. I imagine a crumbling tower or something, a pyramid around them, and him using his body to save the kid. And it like there was
Oh,
so many touches of the way they humanize it in a way that we've seen dogs act that
yeah.
like the strings are firmly attached to our heart.
I'm
So
gonna make this call right now. If we're gonna go ahead and predict the story, my call
yeah.
is that you're exactly right, and that that animal beast is going to in some way sacrifice itself to save the kid at the end. And then I'm predicting an epilogue. I'm predicting credits rolling, and then an epilogue where some kind of offspring or some
Oh, a
kind of egg or
puppy.
something hatches, and it's like years down the road, and it's this kid who is now an adult looking over these ruins that are now regrowing, and maybe a city that's starting back up, or a world where nature has finally taken back over, and there's blossoms and flowers everywhere, and you have this new maybe baby beast or uh, growing into adulthood, cat, bird, jackal, dog.
Or maybe it's some sort of hybrid animal and mechanical beast, and it shows up in Horizon Zero Dawn, like we saw next.
Aha.
Now that looked pretty great. Gameplay looked very fun. Lots going on. Lots of RPG mechanics. The trapping, the shooting. Nice weight to the enemies. Kind of intuitive the way that head and shield swung around. I thought looked really great. You and me were
Mhm.
chatting on Hangouts at the time, and I was saying I really didn't like why they sounded so different. She sounded like she was in present day 2016, and then she comes across this villager and he's like, "Ooh, big animal down there. I don't know." And
It wasn't that bad.
no, that's an exaggeration, but it had that like to me it had that slightly tribal, more primitive feel. But I know
Yeah.
the story with her is that she's this outcast, she never fits in, and that she's kind of the missing link
Hmm.
to whatever the past or the future is. So as long I'm fine with game universes coming up with whatever the crazy stuff they want, as long as there is a bit of a justification behind it and they stick to it.
Yeah.
Uh, quick side note: my biggest pet peeve about Star Wars Force Awakens is when Finn does a good shot and he's like, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" I'm like, man, people in Star Wars don't talk like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please don't do that. So but hey, I'm open. That could be just a part of the whole character. Because when he was talking about like demons over there, demon something, and she's like, "I don't believe in demons." What was it? So maybe she's just this person out of time. It looked great. The vistas were beautiful. They did a nice job building the world with the story. It looks like a lot of fun to play. And now with the added mystery and bonus of a potentially good story,
Hmm.
I'm even more intrigued in playing it. So should be a big game for next year.
For sure.
And then we went on to another heavy hitter. And these were all, by the way, without anyone coming in and talking.
Right.
Quantic Dreams, one of the best game trailers ever.
Yeah, that
Detroit.
was amazing.
And they've put out a few trailers. Remember that tech demo they did where they had the girl who was on the assembly line and she gains consciousness and the
Yeah.
guy lets her go? This was fantastic, combining the detective work of Heavy Rain while still showing off the gameplay, the choices, the branching, the multiple ways you can attack a situation. The game looks so good. I think this is going to be their best game. Just taking everything they learned from before and putting it into this. This looks so good. The story they can tell in this future I think there's so much potential here. What do you think about this one?
It was really powerful because they're obviously taking this concept of these android humanoid machines who have achieved this level of artificial intelligence and sentience and almost like
Yeah.
borderline empathy and emotion, because you have this this one point where they're showing all the different ways that the story could have branched off, and the detective is kind of talking down this assailant, and the assailant lets the little girl go, and then he gets shot, and then right
Yeah,
before he dies or whatever androids do, he looks the dude right in the eye, and he's like, "You lied to me."
sure.
And it's this connection, it's this emotional. Well, I don't know if it's emotional, but I guess that's the power of it, that it makes you wonder, are they feeling something, and what exactly is going on behind the scenes here, and what was Connor's backstory, and what happened to that girl? Is she part of the story somehow? But I was definitely intrigued, and at the very beginning when you see him fall backwards with the girl and start falling down, I thought, did they really do that?
Yeah.
And so that they're very willing to tell a powerful story, and put in some really uh, moving moments, controversial maybe. And as far as gameplay goes, I'm still left wondering exactly what that's going to be. It looked like maybe a lot of exploration and collection and detective work.
Yeah.
I thought I read somewhere that it's going to be playable in VR, so there might be that component to it. Maybe it's more of an interactive graphic novel kind of thing with
I
just
think it'll be pretty close
branching.
to Heavy Rain, a lot of walking around.
Yeah, I never played that, so I don't really know
It's it, it's
what's
it's
there.
it's like a Telltale's game.
Okay.
It's walking around, it's making choices, it's going up, and it's gamifying a lot of things like brushing your teeth or opening a door, rolling down a window, and
Yeah.
then but taking that a lot further and having it be a lot of choice with it.
I think I'm okay with that.
I think it'll really really work for this. It's
Hmm.
and they'll probably throw in a few quick time events maybe for more action packed moments just to make it
Sure.
a little more exciting. But it'll be like Telltale, but gorgeous and
Hmm.
super polished, and hopefully them telling. I mean, Quantic Dreams is not afraid to jump out there and tell some weird stories,
Yeah.
and whatever people might think about Beyond Two Souls, at least they took a chance. At least they tried to do something a little different. I was a huge fan of a game the team made called Indigo Prophecy
I
back for
didn't play that either.
back for the original Xbox, and it was really mind blowing back then. And there was like from the opening scene, your character awakens having murdered somebody, and they do this awesome split screen where there's like a cop in the diner, and you can see him as he's getting ready to go to the bathroom, and you have to like hide this body in a bathroom, and they know how to do tension, they know how to do a movie like experience. And that was back in the Xbox One, so we're already up to the Xbox Scorpio now.
Right.
Just imagine what they'll be able to do. Looks great. As I'm so into story based games now, I think this is going to be right up my alley.
Yeah.
Maybe just not a dystopian future, but just a look at what easily could be our future. Like you mentioned about the empathy, when he jumps and he watches in one of the moments where he sees the hostage taker fall down, and I remember looking at the Connor's face, and I thought, does he look sad that that happened? Why would he look
Yeah.
sad that that happened? So it would be so interesting if they were on that line of, are they developing feelings? Planet of the Apes style.
Right.
And then they start talking about VR games.
Yes.
Before the show, I was watching a bit of the GameSpot's pre-show, and they were talking about how many VR games, and they were saying like, "Oh, why do all this VR stuff? Not many people have VR." But I think they gave us lots of great stuff before they brought out the VR, and the VR did really really well. The first one they bring out is this horror-looking game. They don't tell you what it is, like
Uh-huh.
Sony does. And I was like, if this is in VR, this is gonna kill people.
Yeah. I was
This
scared.
this is you could hear the crowd. The crowd was freaking out when like the light would go on those mannequins.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that limited cone of view. And then you go down, and then I was thinking, is this PT?
I wondered, or Silent Hill or something.
Yeah.
I seriously I had to crank my volume way down. I was freaked out.
It was insane. And to see it come up and be Resident Evil 7.
Of all things.
Oh, I was so happy to see that because Resident Evil is such an important part of gaming.
Hmm.
And ever since 4, I feel it hasn't been as good as it could be. I know you've had some great times with 5, and I haven't played it, to be fair. But I mean, like Revelations and all this stuff, people don't really want to play that.
Yeah.
This is something pushing it beyond, because Resident Evil 1 was pushing gaming forward at the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It
Resident
hasn't
Evil,
evolved in a very long time.
yeah, and even Resident Evil 4 was like the evolution of third-person shooting, and this looked like the next level and what VR. Like, man, you were talking about some VR talks where they're like, people feel this too much. Even people in the crowd knowing it was on VR were feeling
Yeah.
it too much. That game thought, that's the killer app, man. I definitely
be.
might want to get VR because of that. What are you thinking of this game?
I think it's really, really interesting that you're so excited about it. It's already really controversial just because it's called Resident Evil. They could have called that anything. They because they had some post show interviews and we know a little bit more about it. I think the team confirmed that you are not any kind of like special forces or military or police. So you're just a normal person.
Sure.
I think it all takes place in this mansion, this plantation area in America. We don't know yet if there's combat. We do know you have an inventory, and the whole game is in first person. And they did mention that it's playable from beginning to end in VR. So, really, really controversial because when you say Resident Evil, you immediately have so many expectations, and you have decades of gameplay and a whole legacy, a franchise legacy to base those expectations on, and what we've seen is completely shattered all of those. It is absolutely nothing
Right.
like we would expect. So obviously people are already extremely upset, and then another sect of people are just psyched out of their minds and think that this is the big evolution for the Resident Evil franchise and exactly where virtual reality needs to go, and they think it's going to be a flagship title for PSVR, which I think it very well might be. And yeah, it looked gritty and terrifying and something that I'm probably not brave enough to experience myself in VR, but I'm excited to download the demo and try it out that way.
You know that it's not Resident Evil, but it's Capcom calling it Resident Evil to me means we're putting everything we have into this because we
Yeah.
know this is going to be one of our biggest franchises. They could have spun it off and called it something different, but because
Mhm.
they didn't makes me think that they're super serious about this and they want it to be the next step. We've had it like all right, it's Umbrella Corps and they've put so many remakes and remasters on like the story before and the prequel and all this. It's just I think that has been played out and it's done to death. And maybe those characters can show up later, but I've never felt a real attachment to those characters. To me, they always felt
Yeah.
like a bit of a joke. You know, they're just these B movie characters saying hilarious lines, especially well, more so in Resident Evil 1.
Mhm.
So I don't feel an attachment to them. I'm just excited that it's good, and seeing the Resident Evil name to me means they're taking it seriously, and it's going to be they're going to put everything they have into it.
I agree.
Then they came out and said PSVR October 13th, $400, 50
Mhm.
games from the launch until the end of 2016. Then they showed us a bunch more PSVR games.
Yeah.
They showed us Farpoint, some sort of like space game, mysterious thriller, shooting at big spider monsters.
Yeah.
Looked good, looked creepy, looked atmospheric. You know, not much else to really go on.
Right.
I like the theme of and the vibe of kind of being left alone and struggling, and it's not an all out horror. It's kind of a mix of like action and horror, from what I could gather from what
Yeah,
they
like
showed us.
sci-fi survival.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Then they showed us. When I first saw X-wings in VR and in a cockpit, I was like, I have to buy PSVR. And then when I
Right, right.
realized it was a DICE Battlefront kind of spin-off, I thought,
Hey, it could be great.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
I doubt it. I bet you it's just going to be the same gameplay you've played in Battlefront, and the ship flying in Battlefront is not great.
Mm.
If they've gone through and remade this from the ground up, which I doubt, but I would love it, and it's better, I'd be great. I'm all over it. I love X-Wing, the original game, TIE Fighter. I love flying games, and I love Star Wars, and VR would be the perfect match.
It's
But
your game, man.
yeah, but I don't love Battlefront, the new
Yeah.
Battlefront.
Yeah, don't let that bug you. Hey, that's just like you said with Resident Evil. All that means is they have a lot of money to pour into it.
That's a really fantastic way of looking at it, and
Yeah.
I'll leave on that note. Then we saw a very strange and fun teaser for Arkham.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. It was really
Speaking
strange
of
to
Star
hear.
Wars.
Yeah, exactly. To hear all the Star Wars and then to hear Mark Hamill's voice. I wasn't sure what it was, and then you pointed out like, oh, this must be a Batman game. A perfect teaser. They don't need to show a lot. They can just have a voice and some imagery and let everyone's imaginations fill in the blanks. What is it going to be? Arkham VR. Are we going to be seeing full-fledged games? Are we going to be seeing like Arkham?
I can maybe fill in that blank for you because
Yeah.
I was just perusing the forums. I did see somebody who neither you or I watched a lot of the post show stuff, but I think somebody did pick up in an interview that it's the Batman game is going to be like a 1 hour long, like a VR experience more than a
Right.
fully fleshed out game.
That seems to be the tagline they'll throw on at the end of it. Like, This is an experience.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what those cost. How much would you pay
Uh,
for a 1 hour experience?
ooh, I mean, if it was great and it had replay value, like something almost like a Hitman thing where you could go through and experience it in different ways, I'm thinking maybe 8.99.
Okay. I was thinking maximum $10,
Yeah,
but that's like Canadian conversion.
yeah,
About $10 I'd pay for an hour, and if it had a lot of replay value, like a lot that you could really go through it, then I would pay more.
yeah,
I mean, if you think of a board game, you might pay $40 for a big board game, and you play it for an hour, but you can replay it a lot. Sure, but if it's a story-based thing, yeah, maximum for me $10,
yeah.
maybe even less actually. I mean, I
Depends
think
on how good it is.
that's the thing. Like an indie game that I'm gonna play for now. Like I played Anatomy and I paid $3 for, and I was really happy to be terrified to be in a horror game for $3. But for like a full blown, I mean that's a more expensive game. It might just cost them. It might cost more money.
Yeah.
This is where it got confusing, and this is where I feel they didn't tell the audience that these games aren't VR anymore because they showed you Final Fantasy 15 out of
Yeah.
nowhere. We saw some more of this. Final Fantasy 15 is actually getting a bit annoying now. It's just kind of like, hey, us too.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy, right? Cloud, Sephiroth, not really. Dinosaurs and Prompto.
Yep.
So they jumped around like a bunch of idiots doing
Could be
their
cool.
doing their combat, and then all of a sudden there was a VR experience, and you get to play as Prompto, like the least favorite character of people. Like, okay, you get to stand there and warp around and shoot.
Well, he's the only one with a gun, so I guess that was just the most workable VR angle.
Oh man, that's I wrote down here first minor letdown. I felt like everything up to this point, I was freaking out, and then all of a sudden, actually seeing the word dice after Star Wars, and then play as Prompto, like okay, and
That
then
didn't bother me at all.
so then they quickly moved on. Oh really? All right, okay. They quickly moved on and they started showing all this space stuff, and they didn't tell you right away it was Infinite Warfare. And this is where it was really confusing, where people were thinking, "Wow, this is a great looking VR game."
Yeah.
And
I
then
was psyched.
yeah, and I was watching like, wow, you're gonna aim with your head. And then as soon as like the ship battles and then the shooting, like I'll just like back it up a little bit. It starts off on a ship. They call you captain or you or whoever. You are like picking planets to go to. I'm like, what is this, Mass Effect? This looks awesome. And then you hop, and then you see like mechs walking around. You hop into a ship and you fly, and you think this game looks insane. Then
Yeah.
you're first person shooting, and then it would to me it was a very very jarring experience to go from all these beautiful games and wonder and curiosity and imagination and horror, and then all of a sudden like murder, 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 grapple a guy, rip his helmet off, put a bomb on him in space, and that's when I'm like, oh, this is Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
This is Call of Duty celebrating this mass murder. It was so like just unexpected from everything. I think it looks pretty good. I'd love to know how much of the ship you control that you're flying around in, or whether that's just like a cutscene with a targeting indicator. What are you thinking about it?
Like you said, the transition from, I mean, the VR experiences were getting stranger and stranger.
Yeah.
And then we went to Final Fantasy 15, which we know is like a huge standalone game. And then it was also having this VR stuff integrated. And then there was no transition. It went straight into Infinite Warfare gameplay. We didn't know it was Infinite Warfare at the time, but it went straight into this gameplay. And I thought, oh my God, this is, and you know, again, we were on Hangouts and you said Call of Duty. And I was thinking in my head, no, this can't be Call of Duty because we're still in the VR showcase. We're looking at a VR first person shooter, and boy, does it look really, really great. They are
Yeah.
they're proving that you can have this balls to the wall. I even said like it has all the ingredients of a Call of Duty, and I guess they're really proving that you can have that intense and that good looking of a first person shooter experience in PSVR. And then it started sinking in, and I thought, and by the end, of course, we saw his Infinite Warfare, and I was like, dang, I got duped. This
Yeah.
whole time, I thought I was getting this incredible, but you know, whatever. I mean, it looked good. I was happy to have some additional Infinite Warfare footage, and it was, you know, about what I would expect from Infinity Ward. Super cinematic, crazy set piece. The space battle looked really crazy.
I thought it looked pretty good, actually. I thought that they were doing some interesting things. I thought it looked a little better than expected.
Yeah, and you know, it was so Infinite Warfare. You know, you start off in the ship, crazy blast off, crazy space battle, infiltrate a thing, blow up the thing,
Yeah.
and get out at the very last second as the cavalry rolls in and blows it to bits. And
So many close calls.
yeah. So I expect it's going to be a lot of that, probably about 8 to 9 hours of that. So, it's Call of Duty, and I'm sure it's going to be fun. The whole world just hates it right now. The mantra of E3 so far at every single conference, if you look in the chat, everybody's just been saying RIP Call of Duty. That's just for some reason
It's
people just want to shit all over it.
it's groupthink, man. It's just
Yeah, that's the hive mind.
It just yeah, they're like the Borg. They don't even know why they're saying that. They just go, "Oh, it's dead." What's the difference between this and Ghosts or
Yeah.
Black Ops 2 or whatever? I mean, it's just it actually I think it looks good. I think that it looks like a pretty interesting campaign as far as Call of Duty goes. So,
yeah, we'll see.
and remember, you can play that in VR too, man. You can play any PS4 game
That is true.
on VR.
That is true.
Then we get the man walking out with this cool projected background, Crash shadow in the background, like right behind him. Wow. And the way he handled that was pretty well. And then he smugly tells us you get Crash 1, 2, and 3 fully remastered on PS4. I don't know if people really know what they want. They just want Crash.
Yeah.
They're like, Crash Bandicoot, it's coming. And then is that the announcement people wanted? I feel like maybe you're a little closer to Crash Bandicoot than me. It's something that I played a little bit, but I was never really, I have no nostalgic attachment to it other than it just being a game I had on a PlayStation.
Yeah. So I can tell you from my perspective, this is one of the biggest announcements of the night because we've been waiting for a new Crash Bandicoot announcement for so long, and Sean Layden caused a big to-do because he came out, I think it was either Paris Games Week or I think it was Paris Games Week when he came out. No, it was the PlayStation Experience.
Right.
He
With the
walked out
shirt?
for his keynote, wearing this Crash Bandicoot shirt, and everybody lost their minds and they thought this is it, and then nothing happened or came of it. And that was so long ago, so everybody was just really perplexed, and it was like the ultimate troll. So yeah, it was really special for him to walk out with that shadow, which was I mean, it was just the perfect way to introduce it. But then when he announced that it was those 3 remasters or remakes, I it's hard to predict how everybody is going to predict. Of course, the most vocal group is going to hate on it, but I think what people really wanted most was a reboot like Ratchet and Clank.
I thought that would have been.
Yeah, the way Insomniac recreated Ratchet and Clank was perfect because it was basically the old game that we know and love, but it was still completely brand new. But when you say remake and not reboot, that makes you think it's going to be the exact same levels and the exact same platforming, just with, obviously overhauled graphics. And, those were PlayStation 1 games. So obviously they're having to redo the engine from the ground up, and it's probably going to look fantastic. And maybe they'll add in some stuff. Is this all going to be on one disc packaged together? Or there's going to be 3 separate things? Is it going to be a physical release?
three separate $60 games.
Yeah, right. I mean, they really could take it any direction. So they need to flesh that out and maybe give us a few more surprises and really give us a few incentives to get invested and to really get excited about this. But I'm just glad it's happening, and I'm glad that Sony is recognizing and putting some resources into an IP and a franchise that we love really dearly. And if this does really well, then hopefully we will get that reboot. And hopefully that's something they're already working on. Maybe these remasters are something they can just do on the side and really to get everybody hooked again, and then they can announce this brand new experience.
While I really hope that's the case, I feel like with them announcing all these games that who knows when they see the light of day, if they had any inkling of doing that, they would have been like, and we're making a reboot. That's what it really needed. And I would actually be fine just playing like a port of 1, 2, and 3. I don't know about fully remastering them. Yeah, they're going to look a little better, but building everything up from the ground up is going to change a few things. It's going to change how it feels. It's going to look different, and I don't think it might look nicer and more like HD friendly, but I think you lose something in translation with that. Like they recently did the Oddworld games. They made this New and Tasty, which is a remake of
Yeah.
And I didn't like what they did there at all. They actually lost all the cool pre-rendered backgrounds and just kind of made everything look glossy, but lost a lot of character. So we'll see what they're gonna do. Oh, by the way, he's going to be in Skylanders.
Yeah.
Then we saw Lego Star Wars Force Awakens, and the demo's available right now.
Mm-hmm.
You can be playing that. I was thinking, how cool would it be to be in the orchestra pit and getting to play John Williams Star Wars songs?
I was thinking that exact same thing. That was probably like so many people were checking that off their bucket list.
Oh man, that was so great. It looks pretty funny, actually.
Yeah. Oh, the TT Games always does a really great job with the Lego games. They're always hilarious.
Yeah.
If
You did
nothing else, they're always really funny.
You did Marvel Avengers review, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think I'd give that one a spin.
Yeah.
If maybe I could find some young relative that wants to play it, that'd be fun, and I get credit for being a cool uncle.
And check out the demo.
Then yeah, I totally will. I was looking for it in the PlayStation Store. I couldn't find it, but I'll keep checking. Then, an even bigger moment.
Yes.
Oh man, people just knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And the way they announced him, the way they had that cool lit up walkway, people chanting Kojima, 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 and then he speaks fucking English.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the first time I've ever seen him speak English before. I've heard that he understands it, but he'll always use a translator. And I've seen many interviews with him having the translator, and they're like, oh yeah, he knows, because sometimes he'll start speaking Japanese after he's heard the English question.
Right.
But he doesn't like to do it. But I don't know if he just like worked on that. He stumbled over some words here and there, but not any more than many other people do with those things. But that was so cool to see him get the hero's welcome.
Oh, it was epic.
It was like rising from the ashes of like, fuck you, Konami, and what you've done to him and to gaming and keeping him locked up, working on countless Metal Gear Solid games over and over again. He wanted 2 to be the last one. And to see him come back so strong. Wow, that was cool. Like, probably the biggest moment, I think, of E3.
And Death Stranding, what a mystery.
Dan Tack had the best tweet, I think, on that. He said that was the most Kojima trailer ever.
Sure.
Oh, when they revealed Norman Reedus' face with a baby and like a cutout stomach and
just butt naked,
dead animals,
everywhere.
And then these like floating psycho mantises
things. Yeah.
It's like, oh wow, I cannot. All the ideas he's had that wouldn't fit in Metal Gear Solid are now going to get to be explored and will explode all over the place.
It's funny because you can take even the most surreal trailers.
Yeah.
Even like something like Prey, where you don't know what's going on, but you can piece together something and you can project like, okay, maybe this is happening. That was like, we saw so much and it was such a feast for the eyes, but at the end of it, it was like, what the hell? I can't even formulate a guess of what this game might be about.
It's probably a collectible card game.
That was my first guess, but I just don't know for sure.
Yeah. Oh man, that was so exciting and just
super good.
It's so. Yeah, I mean, who knows when we're gonna get to play that? 2019 or something?
Has it been confirmed? Is this gonna be a PSVR title? I thought I heard that.
I didn't hear anything about it being VR, but it is a Sony exclusive as they're publishing it. Edgy. And then we get to see, did they reveal what this next game was about, or that it was made by Insomniac first?
Insomniac first.
That was cool. They're like, oh, Insomniac, this should be good.
Yeah.
New York stuff. A guy from Queens. I'm like, what is this? Like, is this Infamous or something?
Right.
And then to see Peter Parker, oh my God, with Insomniac behind it, in a time of gaming where open world gaming, action, superheroes, it's so not easy. It's easier to do. We have the power and the technology, and the groundwork has been set for a game like this. I thought it looked like a really nice mix of slightly gritty, slightly realistic, with that kind of jokey attitude. Looked great. Looked really good.
Too.
Yeah. And
that'll be a mystery. I can't wait to see a gameplay trailer.
There's been a lot of Spider-Man games, and a few of them have been really good, and a few of them have been not so good. But I think this one's going to be. They put it, Insomniac knows how to make games, so.
I agree.
And that was them sort of wrapping it up and talking about the future of games. Very little talking from people in suits. Liked it a lot. Nothing cringeworthy. They didn't shoehorn in any celebrities. It was just, that was exactly how you should do an E3 conference. And I think they just killed everybody. Would you say they won?
Oh yeah, hands down. I think just like last year, I think well, that's hard. Sony took first place. They took it hard. I was gonna say just like last year, Sony and Bethesda were the stars of the show, but
Sure.
Microsoft really showed up too. Microsoft had a solid conference. We had some really exciting hardware
Yeah.
announcements, but hands down, Sony took it. So the conference kind of ended on a whimper with the Days Gone gameplay demo. It
Yeah,
was
I didn't want to bring that
not the
up
way I
again.
would have ended such an epic especially when you start off with that incredible God of War gameplay. It's by comparison, the ending was it just kind of fizzled out there. But yeah, I mean, everything else was just phenomenal. It was wonderful, and I'm so excited to be a PS4 player.
Yeah, yeah, that was exactly what was on my mind. Like, how happy are you that you have the console that you get to play Detroit, Insomniac Spider-Man, Sony Ben's new game, and Kojima,
Hmm.
whatever he's going to dream up. They really should have ended on Spider-Man. That would have been. You wanted
Yeah,
people walking out thinking about that. On paper, Microsoft did really well. You're like, oh, they have a slim Xbox. They have the Scorpio thing coming out. They got some cool new games. But when it comes to how the presentation of it was like everybody else did the same thing. They made the same mistakes. Sony just walked out there with that swagger. Like,
yeah,
wow, we need an orchestra to play us on. And
it
doing it
was
in the Shrine
amazing
Auditorium, I think, was a great idea too. So
for sure.
resounding success all around. In a previous video, you and me were talking about, oh, is Square Enix going to have a conference? Apparently, they already did. They had a
Mm,
Square Enix Deus Ex conference, and it was before EA's.
okay.
Remember, and I was thinking these were all a bunch of like pre E3 stuff because it came in really early before like all the hoopla of everything. So technically it was an E3 conference, but I wouldn't say it was. I mean, you can call it an E3 kickoff, but I don't think
Yeah,
anybody was really ready for it. It felt like
yeah.
it just sort of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, E3 has our Square Enix rather has so much going on.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, and
you're cutting them some
it
slack,
well,
cutting them
it
some
it,
of
ta-
that Bethesda slack.
it takes a lot to get these trailers. You take a lot of man hours and resources
Yeah.
away from game development to create and finalize a gameplay demo that's not going to glitch out, and to
Oh, they were
create
they
these
were making
incredible
an
trailers.
E3 demo. I bet you that's not even in the game. It kept saying it all over the screen. E3 demo, E3 demo.
Hmm. I don't know. As yeah, I guess we. I think Square Enix is just super busy. The fact that we got this like 30-second, really underwhelming Titan battle
Yeah.
from Final Fantasy 15 in the Microsoft conference, and then nothing else really. And the fact that Square Enix has been making announcements prior to E3 about the Final Fantasy 12 remaster and
Yeah.
some other mobile stuff coming down the line. I think they have their hands full right now, and I don't think they were willing to put all the resources into a huge E3 showing. I think they're too kind of like Nintendo. I think they're so focused on what they're doing right now that they just can't be bothered, and I'm okay with that as long as what they churn out is good stuff.
Yeah. Well, see, the 12 remaster, that was a part of their little kickoff too. But it
Okay.
was it was just strange all around how it was presented. But all in all, pretty great stuff. Nice job, Sony.
Oh yeah,
Everybody, please take notice and do your conferences like that.
just like that.
Just trust the gamer to use their imagination and to form their own conclusions. Don't give us a little goes a long way.
Mm.
So now we have Nintendo to look forward to.
Yeah, we have a lot of live streaming tomorrow. Treehouse Live is going to kick things
24
off.
hours of Zelda.
Pretty much, it's going to be Zelda, a little bit of Pokemon Sun and Moon, a little bit of Monster Hunter Generations, and then maybe if we're really lucky, somebody will make an announcement during the live stream about an upcoming direct to look forward to, or maybe drop some really mysterious and suggestive hints of stuff we can look forward to in the near future that'll drive us all crazy.
I feel like Nintendo doesn't care as much about E3 like Sony does. Sony
No,
gets
no.
it. Nintendo's like, "Nah, don't worry, nothing's going to be there." Sony's like, "There will be things and no
Mhm.
one knows." All right, everybody. We will be back up here when Nintendo shows us what they're packing, and we'll tell you all about it. Bye for now.